The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So, while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Meemaw and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Gorilla greetings, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to about 163 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. Wake up, children, because I got something for you to play with. I'm Tom Haggis, your reluctant host this month, and I'm not trapped in here with them. They are trapped in here with me. Let's meet our panel of award-winning judges. First, filmmaker and owner of Southsider Studios, Mike. You may have forgotten your loyalties, but I assure you he has not. Keeler.
Sorry, I was doing my Nick Cage
Oh, you're doing it. I
impression.
got it. It took me a minute.
Damn it, Mike. You took my thing. I was going to do the same thing.
All right.
Now I got to look up a quote.
Let's see what game comes on. The second. you have 3 seconds. Second, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel. I can't stand to hear a grown man scream. Roll.
I'm still looking up quotes.
That'll do. Third, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Inc. Studios, Andrew. I will work and you will sleep. Zumwalt.
Put your balls on Evan. We're going to Willy's.
Lastly, writer, actor, and director, Kyle. I'm going to feast on your face. Fine.
Don't forget to sandpaper your fingertips before you pull on my plunger and slam my flippers. Also, I'm beginning to question your commitment to sparkle magic. Thank you for reminding me of that actress, Andrew.
Nice.
All right, so it's October, so it's time for our annual pageant of bad movies, I guess. It's rare that we get good movies in October, so okay, so we know what we're doing, but you guys may not. So let's abuse some pinball machines and poke the monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen, nightmare-plagued night watchmen and pop-chugging pinball players, welcome to the main event. Tonight, we're spending a spooky evening surveying stories of surviving in secluded strife. Which will secure our souls, and which is headed for the high score. In the first quarter, from 2023, written by Scott Cawthon, Seth Cudback, and Emma Tammy. Directed by Emma Tammy. Starring Elizabeth Blair, Piper Rubio, and Josh Hutcherson. Five Nights at Freddy's. In the second corner from 2021, written by G.O. Parson, directed by Kevin Lewis, starring Beth Grant, Emily Costa, and Nicholas Cage. Willy's Wonderland.
All right. So it looks like we have a Hobson's choice on our hands. So as Kyle said earlier, put your balls on because we're going to Willy's and Freddy's. We're going to go round one, writing and writing. So let's do it.
Andrew said that, by the way. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you.
That. Thank you.
I want to know. I did not look up any trivia, and I'm not trying to take any trivia away from you, Tom. But I want to know. If,
I actually forgot I was supposed to look up trivia. I will do that now.
If Nick Cage's character actually had dialogue in the original script, I want to know if that was a choice by like the director, or if Nick Cage is like, I'll be in your crappy movie, but I'm not saying anything.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, I have a little info on that too.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I'll let you.
I'll
let you guys answer in a second. I felt like the writing for Willy's was just atrocious. It was bad. One thing that stuck out in my head, and I watched these movies a couple like 3 weeks ago, something like that. Was the girl keeps showing up to set fire to Willy's, and she keeps getting caught, and it made it sound like she's always trying to do it and she's always failing, and you would think in the amount of years that had passed she would have done it once. Like, that just really bugged me. And another thing that bugged me was how easy Nick I should stop calling him Nick Cage. I need to call him by his actual character name. The janitor defeats the monsters, and it's almost the exact same way every time. And he just goes back to cleaning up. I just wanted different stakes. Like, you never felt like he was in danger, really. And I don't know. For me, the writing just fell flat. Now, for Five Nights at Freddy's, I felt at least they were trying something new. Like, they kind of paid some service to the video game with the guy, the first night watchman that gets killed, where he's running away, he's scared, and that's kind of it. And then they take it in a totally different direction from what I understand from the video game, the original. But I still felt like it was like the writing was really clunky on Five Nights at Freddy's. And I understand horror movies are going to have certain things that they have to hit. And there's going to be a whole bunch of I'm sorry, I am totally scatterbrained, but I was going to talk about the sex scene in Willy's Wonderland. Like, why would you put that in the spot that it was in the script? Why would these people logically choose to have sex when they have already been attacked by monsters? Like, it just makes no sense. And I'm sorry, I'm just focused on Willy's Wonderland because I kind of had high hopes going in, because I had heard some good things from people, and I went into it thinking, oh, this is going to be a fun ride, and it was not for me. Where Five Nights at Freddy's, I thought at least they were trying to be creative with the script and making it different from the video game, but it still felt very convoluted for a horror movie. And I won't say the rest because that should go into acting or directing, but just the whole door locking, like he never even once used that overhead door. They never showed him using the overhead door, and they break in and he gets blamed for it. That just really, really bugged me. And the whole going into your dreams. I mean, that's kind of a Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff where if he gets hurt in his dream, he gets hurt in real life. I don't know. Both these movies, as far as writing, really bummed me out. And I wish I was more eloquent, and I wish I would have taken notes when I watched them so long ago. But you guys go ahead.
You said you had something, Andrew, about the writing.
I had just read that they interviewed Nicolas Cage, and when he was approached with this movie idea, there was actually dialogue, and he chose actually not, and had the writer actually take out all of the dialogue for him and tried to do a Marx kind of thing.
Okay.
And be very, just no dialogue, just being acting. And he tried it as an experiment, as a challenge to himself, and says, he's very happy with the way it turned out, that he didn't do that. So,
well, and it was almost like The Man with No Name, right? Like there's a lot of those movies where he doesn't talk very much.
Yeah. And we don't know his name. I mean, his
Correct.
character is
the janitor.
His character's quote unquote name is the janitor.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, well, I read something a little bit different. I read an interview from the writer, who basically said, I think it was the writer. They said they were afraid of too much dialogue because they were afraid they were going to actually have to play that character and remember all that dialogue and actually do all that dialogue. And also, actors get paid more when they have dialogue. And so that they didn't want to have to pay more for an actor with dialogue. And there's a part of me that finds that disappointing, because as you probably already know, I'm a fan of, in most cases, of less dialogue, show more, talk less, and oftentimes, well, just we just did No Country for Old Men, and I think that's one where it's a perfect balance, where there's a lot of scenes where you just see what's happening, and then when there is dialogue, it's not telling you what's happening. It's expanding upon what you're seeing. It's adding to the character or the scene or whatever. And I feel like that's like a perfect example of it. And I liked to think when I saw this that it was a conscious choice for the character not to have any dialogue. But then I found out later that it was more of a, maybe for whatever reasons we've discussed, maybe more of a practical reason and not necessarily a creative, conscious choice to have no dialogue for that character.
So the actual interview with Nicolas Cage, he says, and I quote, "The dialogue for my character in Willy's Wonderland was very sparse, so I decided with Kevin, the director, to go full Harpo Marx and take all the dialogue out because I thought that would be a fun acting challenge to see how much I could communicate without words and only with movement and facial expressions. I'm very happy with the results of Willy's Wonderland. It was a good experiment," unquote.
Yeah, and I wish that, I wish that maybe he had at least one line of dialogue. There was a
like
part of me that wanted,
right?
Yeah, at the
or
very
something.
end, I just wanted to say one thing that was like meaningful or funny or whatever. I just wanted him to say one thing.
You wanted a Silent Bob moment?
I guess. And I didn't get it. I didn't get it. The one, another part about Willy's Wonderland that bothered me is that, like, the whole movie is explained by the girl in one scene. There's one scene where she's talking to him, and it's like they took the elevator pitch and they wrote it into the screenplay, and she describes the entire premise of the movie in one scene right in the middle. And I'm like, really? I mean, couldn't we expose these things over time in some more creative way other than having a character just tell us the story? I mean, come on, really? And I just felt like that was kind of lazy. You know, I liked a lot of the idea of, like, who is this guy? What's going on? Why are these things animated? Why are they trying to kill him? You know, I like the idea of that mystery. And then she just comes in right in the middle and just tells you what the story is. And then they go on and he just kind of does his thing and beats them up and all that jazz. You know, and the ending wasn't really very clear to me either. I felt a little disappointing with the ending of Willy's. I don't know. I felt like the writing was a little bit better in Five Nights, except that I don't know. I liked that they developed the characters more, and that you had a little bit more of a concern about what was happening with the characters. But I don't know. I felt like maybe at times it was too much. It's like, well, this is a horror movie about animatronics. We don't really need quite this much, you know, exposition about these characters. I don't know.
So I just wanted my take on Willy's Wonderland is it's almost an experimental type film. They wanted to try something completely different, and they went all in on it. And I think for some people that's going to work, and for some people it's not. They clearly identified that without much dialogue, they were going to have issues. They might have issues with pacing, exposition, scene transitions, moving the narrative along. So I think they found I'll give them credit for some kind of creative ways to break up the action, I guess, like the pinball sequences, the alarms going off. Like, it's really sort of they create their own kind of language of how this movie is going to move. Now, it's a very strong example of tell, don't show for the most part. But you could also say that quite a bit about Five Nights at Freddy's, with the exception that they do dive more into the lore. And you get that through his whole dream theory thing and the daughter and all that stuff. But Willy's Wonderland, they had a theme and they stuck with it. And I want to give them some credit for going all in on that and not like hedging their bets. They're like, this is what we're going to make and we're going to do it this way. And they did it. And, you know, some of that stuff I think is slightly enjoyable. I think it's always fun to watch Nicolas Cage kick people's ass. Is the amount of black goo he got spattered with, I think, is impressive. I'll give him credit for still looking pretty cool at his age. But also, I think Nick Cage is kind of the master of taking people's money to be in movies and then sometimes trying to do as little as possible. But I don't feel like he was grafting the entire time, just part of the time. But also, his character is really inconsistent because he's very stoic and like apparently a master combatant, but vogues while pinballing. I don't understand that part. Also, the worst part about getting stabbed and shot is just duct taping yourself and then having to change shirts constantly. I don't know why there are so many clean folded Willy's Wonderland shirts on a storage rack somewhere. It's really strange. They didn't liquidate any of those. But Five Nights at Freddy's has a much more fleshed out story. I don't know anything about the video game. I think when we get into acting, there's going to be a lot here that differentiates these movies. But the writing, I think Five Nights at Freddy's is just Willy's Wonderland with a budget and that doesn't try this experimental route that Willy's Wonderland went, and is more of your typical movie language.
Well, I'm going to be the odd man out, aren't I? I hated Five Nights at Freddy's. I couldn't stand it. I thought it was over contrived. The weird dream walking. They tried to push a story into something that already had a story. They had a weird attempt at a love interest without it actually going anywhere. There was so much side story that it just took away from the actual what they were trying to get. I couldn't stand Five Nights at Freddy. I hated having to watch it a second time. Willy's Wonderland I thought was fantastic. It was hilarious. It was fun. It was just a great popcorn action movie there was a janitor that just is in one place. It was almost like it was filmed during COVID because it was like one location.
I'm guessing it was, right? Because it came out in 21.
Oh, yeah. Well, but it may have been filmed in 2020. But regardless, I mean, it was, single place. They picked the goofy, the stupid teenagers and, who don't run from danger, who do stupid things that end up dying regardless of their situation. You have a very explicit beats within the story with the alarm, the drink, the pinball, him being pinball wizard, which I think is just, it was bizarre and funny all at the same time, and a very simplistic story. And I've seen Willy's Wonderland multiple times. I showed it to people. I think it's fantastic. I thought it was hilarious. So I'll be the odd man out on this one. And the round's over, so I'll shut up.
I appreciate that. What's anybody else? Anything you want to throw out about writing?
They had him.
That was a rhetorical question.
Well, I was going to say in Five Nights at Freddy's, they had them robbing the place and take anything that's worth money. And instead of taking the classic pinball machines, they break the glass of them. I'm like, there's your money there. It's just,
got to be hard to transport.
Yeah, the royal flush and conditions worth quite a bit. So I'm a bit of a pinball enthusiast. So that would be yeah.
Right?
That's what caught my eye when I watched it. I was just like, "Ooh, Royal Flush! That's actually a really fun pinball machine." All right, let's
hold on. I wanted to say something
come on.
Andrew mentioned that I think is absolutely right, and I kind of missed at the time. The love story, the dream walking and the love story in Five Nights at Freddy's are both completely unnecessary.
Oh yeah, the dream walking. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
really?
It was weird. It was weird. I didn't think about it until now, but yeah, they are completely superfluous.
They have lore already because it was based off of a video game, and they didn't do anything with it.
It's
don't
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, it was so weird that they added all this crap when they have a story already. They could have. Yeah, sorry.
No, very good. You're, fill the time because, I don't have a whole lot of trivia. So let's take a vote for writing. Mike.
Well, this month playing the part of Tom is Mike, and I'm going to ask, do I have to vote for one of them? But I'll go Five Nights.
You know what? I'm in charge. No, you do not.
Okay, fair enough. Five Nights.
You do not have to vote on anything today if you don't want to. This will be fun. Which one are you going with?
No, go vote.
Are you abstaining?
He said Five Nights. But you can ask him again when he comes back if you'd like.
Okay. Mike did say
Gabe.
5 Nights. Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's.
All right, Andrew.
Willy's.
Yeah, okay. And Kyle.
I think I'm mad now about the superfluous stuff, so I'm going to go with Andrew and vote for Willy's Wonderland.
All right, as is your right. All right. I have very limited trivia on these because, interesting movies make interesting trivia. So there's not a whole lot here. So the screenplay was really high on the Blood List, which is a list of highly anticipated genre scripts. And Nicolas Cage produced the movie as he was very protective of the script. For some reason, I'm not sure why. And then for Five Nights, the people that have been attached to this movie at one point or another, David Katzenberg, Seth Grahame-Smith, which would have been really incredible, Gil Kenan, who went on to direct Frozen Empire, Ghostbusters, and the big name I'm surprised at, Chris Columbus, who
Really?
probably would have sucked all the magic out of it. Yeah, it was sucked all the magic out of it, and then, they would have had to bring in somebody better for the next one to kind of get the franchise back on track. So I'm not bitter about Chris Columbus's Harry Potter work at all. So let's move on to round two.
Well, it's interesting to me. It's always interesting to me when I watch a Nicolas Cage movie to see which Nicolas Cage we get, because sometimes I feel like he's all in, and other times I feel like he's cashing a paycheck. This one I can't tell for sure. Like when we talked about the writing, I really liked the idea of him not talking. Not that I mind Nicolas Cage talking, but I liked the idea of his character not having to have a lot of dialogue, and see what he could do with that. And I didn't mind Nicolas Cage in it. I enjoyed it, and I was still surprised. I don't know do we know how old he is now? How old is Nicolas Cage? Doing all those kind of action scenes, fighting the animatronics. That's pretty impressive to me. Yeah, I don't know that there was any other acting in Willy's Wonderland that really stood out to me. Here's one thing that is kind of lowbrow and baseless. He's 60. Yeah, I couldn't do that stuff. I'm not 60
I
yet.
thought that was my job.
Sorry, I'm so used to being host. I just clicked on it and went.
I was happy to see Kaylee Cowan in this movie, not necessarily because of her acting chops, but I also feel like there are certain actors and actresses. It's like you kind of get them all kind of mixed up together, and she's a little bit like her and Sydney Sweeney are kind of the same to me. That I don't know. I'm not saying that based on their acting skills, but they look like the same person to me. And I don't know. I don't know if you guys have experienced this with God, what are their names? I saw a thing the other day where 4 actresses all look exactly the same.
Jamie Presley.
Yes. Yes.
Margot
yes.
Robbie.
Yes. Thank you.
Those are 2 of them.
There's 2 more that look almost
yes.
identical.
Yep, you're right.
And like you see pictures next to each other and you can't tell them apart. It's like, what the heck? This is crazy. And I got that feeling with Kaylee Cowan and Sydney Sweeney. I was like, okay. I don't know that there was really any great acting in either of these. Although I did feel like the acting was stronger in Five Nights. Josh Hutcherson is, I think he's a pretty good actor, and I felt like, I felt like he really portrayed that character well. He was kind of stressed and under pressure, and I think
Manic.
he portrayed that really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked the actress who played Vanessa, Elizabeth Lale. I liked her too. I think she had a little bit of a problem with the writing. Her character was so weird, but I think I really liked her. I found her very convincing, and I really liked her. And of course, then we've got Matthew Lillard. who I did not recognize at first. Did you guys recognize him at first when he was?
I kept looking at him thinking,
I was
I
like,
should know that guy.
I know
that
him.
guy is familiar.
Yeah. And then I suddenly realized who he was. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, I know exactly who that is. And this should have been part of maybe the writing piece of it. His character ends up being kind of the same as the I want to say scary movie, but what were the ones? Scream. Thank you. Yeah. It kind of ended up being the same thing. And I really like him. I don't know why. he kind of plays the same thing every time, but I really like him. I enjoyed his performance in this. He's a little bit over the top, but not too much. He takes it just to the edge, and I really enjoy his performances. So I don't know. I feel like I feel like there aren't a lot of great acting performances in these. Can we count the animatronics? Do they get acting points? I don't know.
Depends.
What do you guys think?
Matthew Lillard played Shaggy.
Yeah, I like Matthew Lillard, and I
recognize
him. I kind of liked his look in this movie. Like, there's something a little bit sinister about him, but he also is. I don't know. I just really dug him in this movie. I thought he was pretty good. The animatronics in Willy's Wonderland, and I think this really is where we're going to start to see the huge gulf in the budget and scope of these movies. I think they're really people in outfits, right? They're just contortionists or dancers or people with good control of their bodies not Five Nights at Freddy's, in Willy's Wonderland.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, and I think that becomes kind of obvious and can kind of take you out of it a little bit. But in Five Nights at Freddy's, you see a lot more, I guess, money and production on the screen. They look a lot more realistic, menacing, sort of unhuman-like. And I think they got good performances out of that. I will say my favorite performance in the whole movie, and probably my favorite scene of Willy's Wonderland, is when the girl and Tito, I think the Mexican robot, get in a fight on the street, and she just keeps kicking him in the balls and hitting, and he's just yelling like "no mas" all the time. Like that was pretty
balls.
good. Yeah, that was
okay.
Good.
All right, yeah.
I think the female lead in Five Nights at Freddy's was very poor. I thought her acting was very poor. Her voice and intonation were very poor. The sheriff woman, I know her from Donnie Darko.
Is that what she was in? Oh.
Yeah, she's the one who says, like, starting to doubt your commitment to sparkle magic. She was okay. The rest of the cast was like kind of okay. The guy chewing the beef stick reminded me too much of myself, which I think is just difficult for me to look in a mirror. But like the sleazy oil man, like magnate Texas guy, Nick Cage is obviously the star of the movie, and you're watching him. Your eyes are on him the entire time. Everything else is just kind of set dressing. And I think that he waffled between, like, I don't feel like Nicolas Cage was just scamming anybody in this. I feel like he thought he had a cool idea and he went for it. And whether it works for you or not, I mean, that's for you to decide. But I don't think he was necessarily bad. And I think Josh Hutcherson, I think it's Hutcherson, but I thought he was awesome in this movie. He really went all out, like emoting and trying to give this character who really has nothing about him that's not contrived, like his story about his brother being taken away and is raising this kid. Like, it's all superficial, kind of doesn't need to be there. And I thought he really tried his ass off. Some of the other people in the movie, I mean, the kid was pretty good. Kid acting is very uneven, but the animatronics and stuff I thought were great. I thought the cop, for the most part, was pretty good until the end, where it became obvious that she knew more than she, was in on. But, like, I don't know. I don't think you can fault it too much. I was kind of surprised at the performance Josh Hutcherson gave for a movie that I thought was really going to be kind of a throwaway thing. He seemed to really be trying, and maybe that's just him. But yeah, I don't know. Nick Cage likes weird things and likes doing weird stuff, and maybe I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here.
It feels like Nicolas Cage has become the Bruce Willis. He'll just do anything. It doesn't matter. He'll be in any movie. Not that that's a bad thing, because there are some great, awesome Bruce Willis movies that are just completely random. You're like, Bruce Willis is in this? Oh.
I'm sorry. I want to jump in here real quick. I feel like, having seen, Pig and Mandy, I feel like Nicolas Cage is finally just making the movies he wants to make. I feel like Bruce Willis was making the movies he had to make, unfortunately, due to his health. So I feel like Nicolas Cage is like, you know what? Yeah, let's do a Chuck E. Cheese movie. Fuck it. And I think Bruce Willis was in a much different position. So anyway, I just wanted to interject there because I have strong feelings about that, and I just wanted to remind everyone that I'm still on the show.
I guess I looked at what Bruce Willis had been doing in the last few years was purely just because he was like, yeah, this would be a fun movie to make. Why not? Like, he was just making movies because he enjoyed making movies. Like, because he made a ton of action movies in the last 5-10 years where he was still acting that were just random movies, and some of them are awesome and some of them are like, that was a great popcorn movie. I don't feel that he was doing it because it didn't feel like he had to. It just felt like he was like, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? I like acting. This is fun. I feel like Nicolas Cage is in some cases just making a movie because he enjoys doing it. Like, he has fun making movies, and some of them are really awesome, and he plays, he really busts out his acting chops to all extent. And there are other ones where he just gets to be goofy. I think Kyle mentioned it earlier. He does dancing while he plays pinball. All I could think of was they didn't have the money to get Pinball Wizard to play because I know that's what they wanted. But, the dancing was all made up. Nicolas Cage just did it. It wasn't scripted. He just did this thing. And I don't know. I think he just had fun making it. Yeah, I would agree. There weren't any standout performances. We can talk about animatronics, either directing or overall, because those are kind of effecty kind of things. I thought
animatronics are going to be part of acting. So,
oh wow,
they were characters, and as host, I'm telling you that we're putting that in with acting. Now that you only have 3 minutes left, good luck.
Then you know what, the animatronics. Yes, the other ones had something to completely go off of, where the ones in Willy's Wonderland were completely made up, and they just were these things. And there are some we'll talk a little bit about in directing with some of the visual effects that they did with them that are pretty neat. And I thought that was kind of cool. So I don't have any complaints about either side. I won't talk much about all the other peeps that you guys, nobody mentioned Mary Stuart Matheson, by the way, the aunt.
Well,
Yep.
I haven't gone yet, so
okay.
she was on top of my list.
Piper Rubio, which was the little sister. I thought she was probably the most standout in Five Nights at Freddy. I thought she did a great job. So, I agree with most everything else.
Welcome to Senate. Agree. But Mary Stuart Masterson, because I agree with pretty much everything you guys have said so far. Mary Stuart Masterson, though, I thought she did a really good job of making you dislike her.
Yes.
Like, she was just awful. And the problem is we have all known people like that. And she played it very well. Although sometimes I felt like maybe she a little hammy, but still a great job. I just, you guys have talked about Josh. You've talked about Piper. I did like Elizabeth Lale. She played Vanessa. And then Matthew Lillard, like this, when I realized who it was, I instantly thought in my head, I think I know how this movie's going to end. And I think that hurt the movie a little bit by having him in that spot, because I shouldn't say he is most well known for Scream, but for us, our generation, he is most well known for Scream. And, the younger teen audience that this was probably going for, which, mind you, we are in our 40s. We're probably not the target audience. They probably knew him more from Scooby-Doo's, right? So they're like, oh my God, it's Shaggy. But really no one else in the movie. Like, I didn't like any of the body count people that showed up to rob the place. Like, they're just, I thought the core people in Five Nights at Freddy's did a pretty great job, or pretty good job, with so-so script. And I agree with Nick, the whole Nick Cage thing. I was going back looking at his filmography while you guys were talking, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot of 4s and 5s in there. But I think you guys are right. But I also remember hearing that he was really in debt, and I don't know how many years ago that was, but I don't know if he's still trying to climb out of that. So that's kind of in the back of my head on why he's doing some of these movies. But I also like to think that he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to act and I want to have fun. So good for you, Nick Cage. And I mean, we talked 2 months ago about one of my favorite movies of all time, Gone in 60 Seconds. So I like watching him bring out his quirkiness sometimes. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. You kicked my ass with the Vogue thing because I kind of forgot about that. And then there on the Twitch stream, I noticed the plunger in the bathroom with the bathroom fight. Like, I really hope that was Nick awesome. Cage's idea. Like,
that was kind of awesome.
But really, I don't have anything else to add, because the rest of the people in Willy's Wonderland, I did not care about. I did not want to see again, at least those characters and how they were portrayed.
All right. On that very positive note, let's put it to a vote. Gabe.
I'm going to go with Five Nights at Freddy's.
All right. Andrew?
Willy's Wonderland, because Nicolas Cage is having fun making movies, and I appreciate fun.
Okay, just say the movie on vote for. You had plenty of time to talk. All right, Kyle?
I don't like fun. Five Nights at Freddy's.
All right, and Mike?
Mary Stuart Masterson, Five Nights at Freddy's.
All right. Here's your brief trivia intermission. So Nicolas Cage improvised the pinball dance. Who knew? There was no paid choreographer on Willy's Wonderland. So Matthew Lillard has revealed that he has signed a 3-picture deal with the studios. So we are probably going back to Willy's eventually. And although there was
Freddy's.
Willy. Freddy's.
Yeah.
I should have. That's what I get for making up trivia.
Wait, making up trivia.
Well, I think I've already seen something about Freddy's too.
Yeah, they're gonna make another one. It made enough money, so, and that's what they're coming.
And they left the ending open enough for it.
Yeah, and the game. I mean, there's more than enough game to build off of, and yeah, and that they made a ton of money, and it came out on Peacock before the theaters. So what are you gonna do? And although they did build a Golden Freddy stunt suit, the costume was never used during filming. For all of the shots, and all the animatronics were performed by puppeteers from Jim Henson's Creature Shop.
Oh,
yeah, I saw that in the credits. Jim Henson's Creature Shop was in there. Yeah, yes, I thought that was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I thought that was that made the whole episode worth it. All right, we're gonna move on to round 3, directing.
I heard that was me, right?
Allegedly.
All right. So yeah, neither one of these directors have really done a lot of things. We did mention already that the Five Nights at Freddy's is getting at least a sequel. If there was a movie deal, but they're in pre-production currently for Five Nights at Freddy's 2, because it is going to be directed again by Emma Tammy. So I would say that we throw a little bit of cinematography and stuff in with directing. So I do want to talk about some of the, like, in both movies, there were some really neat shots. Like, they really utilized lighting. There is a lot of, well, in Five Nights at Freddy, there's a lot of the scenes where it's really dark and all you see is the glowing eyes, or you don't really see anything and all of a sudden it's just the animatronic is just there. Or you have these creepy moments where, like, the one that always stands out to me is the duck that is standing in the hallway in the cupcake. It is so funny to me, and it's very well shot, and it's just this moment, and they stay on that for quite some time, almost longer than what you would normally do to build that tension, and it's freaking great. Like, it's just awesome. Lots of scenes where there's, like, the stage lights are on and things are happening and the animatronics are moving towards people. Like, there are just some really great pieces of those moments. When they build the fort, that whole entire, I guess it's almost a montage that they do where they're building the fort out of all the tables and they're stacking them. And then the next shot is they're all laying down looking up together. It's fantastic. It's really well done. Really enjoyed a lot of that. In Willy's Wonderland, again, you have a lot of the usage of lights, usage of the scary moments of them just kind of showing up. One of my favorite parts, because this was really well done because it was partially done in camera, I guess, is when she first meets up with the female character, the siren Sarah, I believe was her name, and she bends and then she, like, runs off screen really fast, and then you kind of see her in the background and everything. And they did some really cool tricks to make that work. It was all, like, that was really fun. I don't know of any room that I'd ever want to go into where there's a almost slow flashing strobe where you can't see anything. Like, to me, that just, I don't, why would you ever do that ever? I mean, for both of these movies, there are, you know, when you talk about directing, we talk about, like, the way that the moments were portrayed and moved in to tell the story. I think in Five Nights at Freddy's, we got some really good acting, especially, like, we talked with Piper Rubio. You know, she's a kid. Kid actors are, you know, shorter amount of time on set. They're more, you know, they're not the same. There were some really talented kids, and I think they got a really nice performance. They did an adequate job, you know. And in Willy's Wonderland, I'm not sure there was a lot of direction. I think it was just a lot of, we're having fun telling this story. I'm guessing Nicolas Cage had a lot of hand in some of the direction and where it was going, purely just because it's Nicolas Cage. You know, the kid actors, they were your stereotypical horror movie kid actors. Like, I can pick a dime a dozen out of those, and to direct that, it's pretty easy. It's, you be this stereotype, go. I would say that the one big challenge on set for probably both movies, it sounds like Freddy's would be more of a challenge, would be working with the animatronics or people in suits, you know, just dealing with that, making sure everything works. Jim Henson's puppet shop is, you know, notorious for amazing type of animatronics, but you still have a lot of technical things on set that you need to work with. So directing that, making sure that that all falls into place, people are hitting their marks and things, I think would add some challenge to that. So you got to give some graces to that. Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, that's all I got.
Well,
for now,
I really liked, I'm with you, Andrew. I did like a lot of the lighting in Five Nights at Freddy's. I thought it was very well done from a lighting standpoint. There were a couple shots of the animatronics that there was one shot in particular, and I think it was of the bear that kind of stuck out at me. And it could have been because of the lighting, because we have all been on a set and we light it and we're like, we know what we're seeing, but on the screen it almost looks green screened. And there was one shot, and I think it was like when the bear's approaching the camera from the stage. I'm trying to remember the scene correctly. It looked green screened to me, and I'm like, ooh, kind of missed that a little bit.
It's the over backlighting.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure that's all in camera, and it's not just a thrown together special effect. But just for a second, I questioned it. Right.
I would say both movies. There are times when I feel like that happens. Though.
Yes. Yep.
And I think it's.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think it's just the way doing that backlighting just really tricks the eye.
It does. And I mean, you can run into it in a very well lit, bright store when you're actually just lighting for an interview. You look at it and you're like, oh man, okay, let me just move this light a little bit. But for me, my favorite parts of Willy's Wonderland were the camera angles. I really thought they got creative with the camera angles. I did not like the color grading at all. Like, the color grading drove me nuts. And also, this goes with directing, the ball pit. The ball pit just in the same big room, it just looked like, oh my God, guys, we forgot a ball pit. Oh, let's put it over there. And it felt really cheap. And I know that it was made on a lower budget, and we have all been part of no budgets, lower budgets, but still you can work around that. And I feel like they put a lot of creativity in their camera angles and the usage of those angles. But the color grading and the ball pit really threw me off. Where Five Nights at Freddy's, it felt consistent. The lighting was consistent. Most of the camera work was not trying to take you out of the movie by saying, oh, hey, I really like that camera angle. Like, it was working within the scene. But there are some very good ideas with the camera that they use certain camera angles with. That's all I got. I don't want to take too much time.
Well, and I also would say that in Willy's Wonderland, it felt like they were taking tips from other directors, because all of the quick cuts really reminded me of Edgar Wright, Shaun of the Dead kind of feel to it. And when he's playing pinball, like, they added, the lens flares that were like, and that it was like,
there was a lot of lens flares in Willy's Wonderland. Yeah, and I think that goes with the lighting.
I just think it was the style they were going for, that cheesy goofiness. But I mean, him playing pinball, the quick cuts I thought were great, and him doing the can. Again, we're doing that pacing. They're doing the quick cuts from the alarm, picking the can, drinking it, squishing it, throwing it away.
Yep.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of really good low light cinematography in both of these movies, and they played a lot with color, which is fun. There were a lot of intense colors in all of these shots. One of the things that bothered me about Willy's Wonderland was the editing during the fight scenes, though. It seemed very kind of haphazard. And it's okay, I guess, because, he's fighting animatronic, these basically people in costumes, and maybe we need to cut that way so it doesn't look too goofy. But I felt like they felt very disorganized and discombobulated to me, the fight scenes. I feel like there are ways to like make those things make more sense. You can edit them in a way that you understand where the characters are and where, what their situation is and what's happening. And a lot of the fight scenes in Willy's Wonderland were just kind of like, it was just a whole bunch of really quick shots from various angles, and it didn't seem really organized to me.
He went to the school of the Marvel fighting editing. You didn't know that?
Yeah, I guess. I'm trying to think of other movies. One movie I think of that comes to my mind was Lethal Weapon. I feel like there was a fight scene near the end of Lethal Weapon that I got that feeling with. It's like there's a helicopter flying up above or something, and there's light, and they're fighting, and there's rain and water or whatever. And I just felt like it was really disorganized. Like you can't really tell what's happening, who's winning, who's fighting. We can't tell really what's happening, and that was one complaint. But I really did feel like in both of these movies, the cinematography was actually pretty decent, and I appreciated the ability to do so much low light cinematography and still be able to, kind of see and understand what's going on. I guess my only complaint was the editing in Willy's Wonderland for the fight scenes. I guess we could get into we can do that in overall. We'll talk about the animatronic creatures in overall.
So I'd say here is where you see the biggest difference in the budget. Willy's Wonderland cost a quarter of what they spent on Five Nights at Freddy's. And with that, they got a lot of extra camera shots and abilities that maybe it wasn't possible to get for Willy's Wonderland, but they leaned into their sort of kind of crazy experimental style. And, I don't think that that's necessarily bad. It's just a personal choice, right? But I don't know. I feel like that is a major factor that's hard to overcome, whether or not you have the money to put this stuff on the screen. And I'm sure, I'd like to think that if they had more money, perhaps they would have done things a little bit differently. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe this is exactly what they wanted. But I think here is where you really see the difference start to come in the film. But, for what for what Willy's Wonderland was, what we assume it was meant to be, after talking about it, I think it was moderately successful in its vision. Whether that's something you like or not, again, is completely subjective. But I think it executed, what it was trying to go for. So I will give it credit for that. It did stay true to its ideas, which I think is, a good thing. But Five Nights at Freddy's, I think, it just benefits from having probably a better production schedule, a lot more money to spend on things like that, a lot of more, money for post-production, a lot of money for the animatronic suits, a lot of money for other things. And I think the direction of getting Josh Hutcherson to act in the way he's acting, I think actually really helps the film. But I don't think it's great. I am not going to lie and say I think it's great. It's definitely got its flaws, but I think that's kind of what you're seeing here is where the biggest gap shows up now is because of the budget.
All right. Anybody else have anything else they want to add? Anything you guys want to add for directing at all? No?
No,
All right.
I think everyone hit the nail on the head. You know, when you have a lower budget, you've got to get more creative with your angles. You know, and with as far as the lighting, you have a bigger budget, so you have more time to either pre-light or you have more people to light.
Very good. All right, so let's vote. Andrew.
Willy's Wonderland.
Kyle?
I don't want to say any more because I'm afraid I'll get yelled at. by Tom.
You're a quick learner. Thank you very much. But then you went and said something. Kyle.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
All right. Michael.
I've been kind of crapping all over Willy's Wonderland, but I really did like a lot of the choices for the camera angles, so I'm going to go with Willy's Wonderland for that.
All right. And Gabe.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Willy's Wonderland on this one too.
Big softies. All right. So limited trivia again. According to director Kevin Lewis on Willy's Wonderland, he said the movie was a combination of Pale Rider and Killer's Clowns from Outer Space. That's where he drew his inspiration from. And on Five Nights, same piece of trivia I had for acting. Kudos to Jim Henson's Creature Shop. Apparently, I'm cutting and pasting at this point, so there's not a lot.
Just phoning it in, aren't you, Tom Haggis?
Phoning it. You know, I got the poster done while you guys were talking, so I don't want to hear any shit. You know what? I am going to hide under my desk while we do overall.
All right. Ooh, and Tom ducked right out. That was fast. Yeah. Ooh. Still see your shoulders. Overall, so yeah, here we talk about things like settings, sound design, lighting, which we talked about quite a bit in directing, overall rewatchability and kind of the vibe of the film. I feel like the sound design in Five Nights at Freddy's was pretty good. It was kind of eerie. They did a lot of that sort of, you hear sounds far off. They did some creepy musical stuff with the bears, and Willy's Wonderland kind of did similar things, but they felt kind of more low rent and not as polished and well put together. Of course, the animatronics just look better in Five Nights at Freddy's. I think most of that is, again, budget. I don't remember any real music from these films other than somehow Willy's Wonderland got, I think, Freebird. Or something like that. Like, what the hell?
At the end, yeah.
I'm just thinking Nick Cage knows somebody, and Leonard Skinner. It just seems like a thing he would do. Like, he would know that guy. But yeah, I think these films are they're both moderately successful at pulling off their vision. I think there's a lot of extraneous stuff in Five Nights at Freddy's. Willy's Wonderland is actually like the absolute pared down, like bare necessities of what this movie should be, but it lacks a lot in some of the areas I think that Five Nights at Freddy's just nails slightly better. But I think Five Nights at Freddy's adds a lot of fluff to the movie. And I think the movie's only an hour and 45 minutes. But luckily, I think for its sake, you have decent actors and actresses. So you can somewhat get involved in the like sad story element of it, even if it's extraneous. I was not ready for Five Nights at Freddy's for the animals to become the kid's friend. I wasn't ready for that moment. I don't know how to think about that because it's supposed to be super scary. And then I guess you find out in the end they want to put her like inside one of the toys, but I think they're all hanging out and giving each other high fives and drawing pictures. It's kind of strange, but rewatchability. It might be fun to be in an altered state and watch Willy's Wonderland. I feel like that movie might be kind of a blast to watch. Five Nights at Freddy's, I don't know that I'll ever watch again, although I was pleasantly surprised by it. I was dreading it, really was, because it's so far out of my wheelhouse. Things I'm familiar with other than like through TikTok and Reddit and like memes and things like that. But I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of the film, I guess. And I mean that as like the polish, the package, the lighting, some of the acting. Still lot of extraneous stuff. Could have used a good editor to get in there and cut some of that shit out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll rewatch either of these movies. Although I know Five Nights at Freddy's has a sequel coming out. Am I interested enough to watch that? I don't know. Time will tell. See how bored I am.
We'll schedule it.
Yeah, schedule it. We'll go on a 4-way date. We can double date.
Well, I'd like to address a few other things about these movies. I think first of all, from Willy's Wonderland, who is the janitor? What are your thoughts on who he is, why he's there, why he has these powers, why does he drink this drink,
Like a
and
backstory?
why does he not talk? Yeah, I think there's a lot of theories out there about who this character is. And I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on those, on that. Who is the janitor? Any thoughts? I can start off if you want me to help.
I feel like he's maybe just a criminal, right? Like he was on the run. That's just kind
or
of
did he mean to be there? There was a part of me that felt like he meant to be there. Because he waited very patiently. He waited very patiently for the tow truck to arrive.
Right. He could be a demon hunter, or I mean,
yeah.
They're
is he employed by the
Vatican?
devil? Or
Are you thinking he's working for the Vatican and he's going around?
No, that one never crossed my mind. But
no, come on. I think we can work this out. We've got a script to pitch.
Thoughts?
I would agree that it felt that there was a purpose, because like even the one scene where he's standing there with the girl and they're getting ready to fight the I don't remember the frog creature, and his alarm goes off and he looks at his watch, gives her the freaking knife and leaves and goes and plays pinball.
But then he comes back in the nick of time and helps out.
And then when his break is over, he comes back and finishes it.
And what is that? Yeah, what is that that he's drinking? I mean, we can all assume it's like a soda or energy drink.
I'm guessing it's an energy drink.
It said when they were in the car, when he hands it to her, it says pop on the back.
I know. And then there's one scene, I should have paused it. There's one scene where it shows almost like this kind of tagline thing on the side of the can that we didn't see before. And I didn't catch all of it. It said something about extra caffeine or whatever. But, I wondered, why was he dependent upon these? And he couldn't fight any of the animatronics until he had his drink. Now, he does at some point start playing pinball, but he doesn't do that immediately.
Right.
He doesn't find and clean up the pinball machine right away, but he still fights some of them with his drink.
He gets all hopped up on caffeine because he's going to work all night, right? So he's trying to keep himself up, and then the extra caffeine gives him the energy to whoop some ass.
And he did find the pinball machine, because remember when he first goes into the kitchen, he sees it and he leaves it for last to clean. Yeah,
he doesn't play it
right away
before he fights some of the animatronics.
The drink says a fistful of caffeine for your kisser.
Yeah,
that is what
that's probably what I saw, but only briefly. I didn't. Yep. Yeah, it's called Punch or whatever.
Punch.
So I read a fan theory online that he was actually a robot inside of a human body. And that's how he could. That's like when his blood. If you see his blood, like when he gets cut on the cheek, it's very dark, almost like oil. And you could account that to the color grading that Mike mentioned earlier or whatever. And also, how is it possible, even if you're hopped up on caffeine, how is it possible for you to so easily break out of handcuffs?
He's a Terminator.
There you go. He's Skynet.
Yeah. So the one fan theory I thought was kind of interesting was that he was actually a robot in a human body, and that's also why he didn't talk. because he didn't know how to talk. I just thought that was kind of fun and interesting. Of course, the first thing you think of, and there's hints at it too, is that somehow he is some sort of supernatural enforcer,
Right.
who's come to lay punishment on these.
He's a Van Helsing.
Yeah, kind of.
He's out,
or like another Nick Cage movie where what's the one where he's on the motorcycle with the
Ghost Rider.
The Ghost Rider, yes. Yeah,
or Constantine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like some sort of supernatural enforcer. And at the very end of the movie, when they're driving away in his car, they blow up the owner and his henchmen, at Willy's Wonderland.
He doesn't.
No, he doesn't. But he's far away, but you see these flames in his sunglasses.
Right.
Yeah,
and you're like, well, there's no way he's there. So what? Where are these flames coming from? Is he some sort of supernatural enforcer from hell or something?
I mean, maybe they wanted it to be mysterious, right? Like it's
sure.
It's meant to be.
It's probably intentional.
Like it said, Pale Rider, right? Like Pale Rider was mysterious and had all these religious thoughts about that character, and it's I don't know. I like the idea of them maybe bringing out a prequel about the janitor and who he really is. Like you kind of sold me on that. Yeah, you kind of sold me on that.
But sometimes it's fun to not have those kind of things written for you.
That's
and
true.
Let the audience, the viewer, however you want to look at it, decide or
Because-
come up with theories or just let their imagination have fun with it.
Because then you get robot in a human body.
Yeah,
which I think
that
is
was a fan
fantastic.
theory I read. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, actually.
But it's
like,
it's
how is he
kinda-
so strong? And
I even like movies where they end and you're not quite sure what the ending, like, was everything complete and what happened to those characters, and so the fans just try to carry the story on themselves, or they think of new ideas. Like I kind of like that. Like I sometimes it's better not to, why do we need to know? Do we need to know who he is?
We don't. I think there's a natural tendency to want to have closure to these things, to know, to understand these things, because, I think it's an antithesis to real life. There's so much uncertainty in real life that we seek certainty in our entertainment, in our movies and that kind of thing. But there's also a part of me that really likes the kind of unexplained at the end of a movie. It's like, well, did they actually kill all of the animatronic characters? I mean, Siren Sarah blows up that car, and they kind of show her flying away. But did she actually get destroyed? And then at first I was like, well, there was what was the Mexican one's name? No, what was his name?
Tito?
Anyway,
Was it Tito?
the one they run over.
Tito the Turtle.
Yeah, Tito the Turtle.
Tito the Turtle.
At first we're like, well, we're not sure he's dead. I mean, she whacked him in the balls a bunch of times. And he said, it's so painful, stop. But we weren't sure that he was actually taken care of. And then he shows up at the end and they run him over. And we assume he was done for. But are there any of them left? And is it really done? Was he really complete? And then it was kind of interesting, too, that she jumped in the car and they're driving away. And then he handed her the drink. He was going to take a drink, but he handed it to her.
Right.
And
what is that?
Germs.
Well, yeah. What does that mean? Maybe they're germophobic, but what does that mean? Is that some sort of
passing of the torch?
Transition? Yeah.
Holy shit!
No.
You guys are really looking way too hard into this.
But that's just like this tells me that there was something to this movie that was enjoyable if you're thinking this far into it.
Yeah. I don't think it was a great movie, but I didn't hate watching it either. You know, it was. I wanted to talk a little bit about music too, really quick, because we often talk about music in this category. Both of these movies had a little bit of a. I think Willy's Wonderland. They kind of overused the same music over and over and over. Mm-hmm. They had a few tunes. They had the kind of Willy's Wonderland theme that they always play. It's your birthday. It's your birthday, and I felt like that was one thing that bothered me a little bit, is that the music was a little bit repetitive in both of these movies, and maybe, you know, I think they tried to set that up almost as this kind of as this premonition of bad things happening. When you hear this music, shit's going down, or, you know. But I really feel to a certain degree it's like this is what they had. The budgets were not big enough to deal with that. I don't know.
And you know, we keep talking about it because it was a low budget that, well, they did with what they could, and so they repeated things, or they did this. Mm-hmm. There is also a possibility that it was all intentional. Like they did it on purpose. Sure. Yeah. And you know, they made the animatronics a little more goofy because they had actors that they could throw in a green suit and put these characters on, and that's what they wanted because they moved easier in these big fight scenes.
That was one of my problems too, is that in the fight scenes in Willy's Wonderland, is that you could tell it was like a person in a suit. Yeah, and it's like sure. they were trying their damnedest to make sure that the you know, the head didn't come off the costume while they're fighting, but I kind of like that about it. Right?
Yeah, I like the creature of the week type feel of it.
Yeah. And
it didn't bother me, but you could definitely tell.
Okay, so we still haven't talked about how the little girl, all she had to do was draw a picture and put it on the wall, and that took away his power. Yes. Come on.
Well, seriously? Yeah, I mean,
you want to talk about lazy writing?
Yeah, there's definitely problems. I want to talk about the emotive abilities of these animatronics too. I felt like the animatronic creatures in Five Nights at Freddy's could really give you a look. There's one scene where the guy, he sees them, and I don't know, it's like a bear or something. I don't remember which character it was, but it kind of looks and then it kind of squints at him like, I see you. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so scary because it's like you could tell what that animatronic thing is thinking. And I thought those showed emotion so much better than the ones at Willy's Wonderland.
So we talk about rewatchability. I would say that I would rewatch Willy's Wonderland. Like I said, I dreaded watching Freddy's Five Nights again because it was, yeah. I guess there's maybe some, because maybe it was low budget, maybe it was just because of the goofiness of it. I think Willy's Wonderland, for me, it makes it, I watch it and I look at it and I go, this is a movie I would have made. Like, it would have been something where I got my friends together, we sat down for 2 months, and we made this goofy, fun, random horror movie. And it feels like something I would have done. And I think maybe that's why it was more fun for me.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I could definitely see that. I'm glad you brought up the picture, like the crayon drawing. I'm like, so they can only understand things that are really important through a crayon drawing. That just, yeah.
Well, the psychologist said that earlier.
I know.
That's how they communicate.
I know. But that's a pretty weak. That's a pretty weak setup.
They are children.
He took over.
Children, that's true.
That stopped Matthew Lillard from being able to control him was because she drew with the knife. Like, it was so dumb.
I'm just real quick. Right. I know the rounds ended. I'm really glad
it ended a long time ago.
Yes. Tom's so ready. whoever brought up the music, like it, I remember none of it. I really don't remember any of the music. Just, I mean, I remember that, but any of the underlying score or anything like that, I really just don't remember it. And it just seemed like
Hotel California or whatever it was.
It seemed it was serviceable for the film, right?
Yeah.
Like your
well, and it's always this creepy sounding kind of kid music,
right? And
you know what I mean.
I just didn't stick with me, but I really like the fan theories, and I agree with you, Andrew. I do feel bad for just beating the crap out of Willy's Wonderland like it's a guy in a monster suit, but it just hit missed the mark for me. But I was still glad I watched it and able to pull out some ideas to have in my head, and I really did enjoy a lot of the camera angles. It's just that color. The color just drove me crazy. But
some of the color.
No Ninja Turtles. That's all I have to say.
It's
no
some of the
Ninja
color grading
Turtles.
was
There
very
you go.
strong. Yeah. Well, I'd like to take a moment to have a little bit of a collective therapy session.
Tom just threw his hands up.
I have lost
just really,
control.
just really quick.
The show is over.
I just want to have a collective therapy session. These are obviously based off of the childhood trauma of Chuck E. Cheese.
No, I
And,
had Showbiz Pizza. Thank you.
Showbiz Pizza? Okay.
Yeah.
The Rock and Roll Band or whatever.
Yeah.
I never found any of them creepy, to be honest with you.
Neither did I.
Like, people are like,
You probably should have.
No.
According to these movies.
Animatronics and things never freak me out. I guess they're so far from Uncanny Valley. I'm like, okay, that's definitely not real. So. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Except that they have some sort of human soul inside of them that is trapped there.
Their souls
apparently.
And bodies. I didn't understand that
in
part,
one.
but apparently,
It's potentially their bodies, but definitely their souls.
I didn't understand that part at all.
Yeah, so. No, like you wouldn't smell.
Would they not smell?
The rotting, right.
They
mask it.
Point, bodies stop smelling.
They do.
Well, they mask it. They mask it with the horrible pizza as well.
And why do they have like the huge claws that can dig into the snap thing? Like that.
Right.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense to me either. Especially at the end when it was like.
I'm sorry, Tom. I'm sorry.
I know you guys want to dig deeper into these movies, but it's also possible that they're just not good. I'm just throwing that possibility out there.
Tom,
there's a reason there was not a Willy's Wonderland music number at the Oscars.
Tom with a real Occam's razor there. Simplest explanation here is that these movies just suck and we should move on with our lives.
Well done, Tom. Well done.
Thank you. Let's vote.
All right.
Kyle.
Give me Five Nights at Freddy's.
All right. Michael.
Give me, you know what? Andrew turned me. Willy's Wonderland.
You're a pussy. Gabe.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Andrew.
I think I'm gonna change, and I'm gonna go with Willy's
Wonderland. I was gonna say, you son of a bitch.
All right.
It was all a trick.
While I do complicated math, let's go to recommendations, and we'll start at the top with Mike.
All right. Well, I'm guessing I've probably recommended this years ago, maybe 100 episodes ago, but I think the problem that I had with Willy's Wonderland was the whole backstory of the Nick Cage character, and I felt like if he was supposed to be an everyman, that I wanted to see more of kind of realizing what he's into instead of just fighting monsters and going back to what he's doing. And it reminded me of a film that I love very much that my wife and I actually had a painting commissioned by a friend of ours for our wedding. And it came out in 1992, directed by Sam Raimi, stars Bruce Campbell and Beth Davids. and Marcus Gilbert, and that is Army of Darkness. And if you haven't seen Army of Darkness yet, what's wrong with you? It is fantastic. It is the third film in a horror trilogy. The Evil Dead movies are fantastic. They are like indie filmmaking at their best. And Army of Darkness is like the big budget, let's have a whole lot of fun with this final film. And it is funny. It is adventure. It is everything. I love Army of Darkness. Check it out.
All right, Gabe.
Well, I'm with Mike. I had trouble coming up with a recommendation this time, and I was trying to think of Nicolas Cage movies, and it's very, very possible that I recommended this one before, but I think one of my favorite Nicolas Cage movies of all times is Raising Arizona. I think it's one of his best performances. It's really just such a great film. I mean, it's the Coen brothers. I mean, you can hardly go wrong. And I just think it's one of those performances where he's not Nicolas Cage. He is this character. And I just really enjoyed his performance in that. So I apologize if I've recommended this before, but I do not apologize about recommending it again. It's a great film, and you should check out Raising Arizona.
Excellent choice, Gabe.
Very
well done.
good choice.
Excellent. It's a classic. Andrew.
I'm going to go with another off-kilter, I guess, semi-horror movie that is kind of a horror movie and a horror and a comedy kind of mixed into one that is just fun and goofy and almost as a parody to a lot of them. And I enjoy it. I've watched it many times, and I'm very sad that they decided not to make a second one because it would have been awesome. But it stars Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk, and that's Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And it is a fantastic romp. It's funny. There's gore. It's set up to be like a normal 80s horror movie in the woods, and it's fantastic, and it's not exactly what you think it is. And it's
Tucker and
great.
Dale's great.
Yeah, Tucker and Dale versus Evil is awesome. So that's my recommendation.
Fantastic. Kyle.
All right, I'm going to recommend a movie I saw in the theater not too long ago, and completely carried by an amazing acting performance by a couple of the leads. It's called Speak No Evil. I believe it is a remake or reimagining of a foreign film or a film from somewhere else, but that would make it foreign if it's from somewhere else. But I love James McAvoy in this movie. It's incredibly creepy, intense. There's some really good comedic moments that don't break up the tension, which I think is incredibly difficult to do. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth a watch. I enjoyed it a lot. Speak No Evil.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. My recommendation, I just saw it 2 weeks ago. Metacritic put out a list of all of the movies based on video games, and I went to the top of the list. Now, this is not a great movie. As people know, there has never been a great movie based on a video game, but this is the one Metacritic says was the best, and it's called Werewolves Within, based on the game. I think it was on Oculus. Stars Sam Richardson, about a cop who comes to a small town and someone in the town is a werewolf, and it is a horror comedy. I'm not a big horror fan, but it's a very funny movie because Sam Richardson in it, he's hilarious. And it also stars the adorable AT&T girl Melania Vaintrub.
Oh,
She's fantastic in it, and the two of them have really great chemistry. If you've ever played the game, the board game, card game, One Night Werewolf, it's very similar to that. There are scenes in there that feels like they came straight out of the game. But I would check out Werewolves Within. I've watched it twice in the last week because I loved it so much. It's just really fun, low budget horror comedy.
With the AT&T girl.
Yeah.
With the AT&T girl.
And just real quick, I know Kyle, we used to play a game called Werewolves. I wonder if that's pretty similar to that.
Yes, where someone around the table is a werewolf.
Yep.
Yep. It's very similar to that.
It's a whole party game we used to play.
It's a really fun movie. I don't know. Is it on Peacock? Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't know if it's streaming. Doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? All right.
Just like Nick Cage, Tom doesn't.
I've said more than I needed to tonight anyway. All right, so let's move on. And I did the math, and somehow we came up with a tie. It's 8-8, and our mission statement states that when it's a tie, the host gets to choose. And there's one of these movies I liked a lot more. I didn't like the movie at all, but I liked it more than I did the other one. And the movie I liked more was Five Nights at Freddy's. I think the backstory with the lost brother just gave it a little bit more depth. And yeah, I thought Willy's Wonderland was just too damn weird, and it didn't make any sense. And I did not like the animatronics. I thought they were awful. So,
okay, I've got to do this. So, Tom.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Five Nights at Freddy's.
There you go.
Yay! So, in the immortal words of Tito the Turtle, no mas, por favor. Please leave us a review on whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us reach new listeners. If you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, go fuck your... Go tell your enemies. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook, or by just searching Cinesmack. If you want to listen to an unedited version of the show, I highly recommend it. You can catch us live on Twitch whenever we record an episode. In November, we're going to hit the polls and hail the chief as the American president takes on Dave. For Kyle, Gabe, Andrew, Mike, and myself, thanks for visiting Willy's Wonderland. I hope you had a fantabulous time.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So, while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Meemaw and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.